everyone. My name is Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Halt and Catch Fire rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut, which for me is another way to say carpe diem. It's all about going after the things that you want in life. And what I wanted to do this year was rewatch the show Halt and Catch Fire, but this time talk about it with other people, fans of the show, which I've been doing, and I've had a chance to talk with cast and crew who worked on the show, and now we're up-leveling that because I'm at the ATX TV Festival in Austin, here to watch the 10-year anniversary Halt and Catch Fire panel and get whatever interviews I can get. And who do you think I'm about to introduce? It's actually not Toby Huss. I'm about to introduce Melissa Bernstein, who was an executive producer on this show, and she has worked on so many incredible projects, from Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul. Hopefully we'll get Toby later. But look.
I'm checking quick. I'm eating some French toast. But they didn't have any syrup, so it's just.
What kind of a travesty is that?
It's an abomination.
It's an abomination
butter,
indeed.
but no syrup. But
oh my
yeah,
goodness. That sounds good. We're going to hold him to that. In the meantime, I'm so excited to introduce this interview with Melissa Bernstein, and I've been looking forward to talking with her. So many people I've interviewed have dropped her name and have dropped stories about her, have talked about her being a really important part of their life on set. And let's see what we can find out from her. Bye. All right. Here with Melissa Bernstein. Hello, Melissa. Thank you for doing this, first of all.
I'm very honored.
Oh.
I'm very honored. I'm thrilled that you're doing this, that you've taken this on as a podcast. It's amazing.
Oh, it's been such a blast. And I guess the first thing I want to know, you've worked on so many different shows, Breaking Bad, you worked on Better Call Saul. There's been such an illustrious career already behind you, but what for you sticks out about working on this show?
I love the show. I love it so much. I love this. I love the Chris's. I love the writing team, both teams that were put together over the course of the show. I love the cast. It's just incredible. Everything. It was just like such a beautiful story. Like I love what it's about. Like I love that it's about creative partnership. I love that it's about the creative process. I love that it is about the people and about the found family, sort of found workplace family. Like we all spend so much of our lives at work. It was just a pleasure to examine that. Like it felt so worthy and such a good use of time and effort and contemplation that was really meaningful to me.
Yeah. You know, it's been openly acknowledged that Halt and Catch Fire never really got the viewership. But to me, that makes it a miracle that we got 4 seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
From your standpoint, we probably shouldn't say it's a miracle, because I bet there's a lot that happened behind the scenes to make this happen. So how do you think the show got 4 seasons?
I mean, I still think it's a miracle. Those were hard-fought seasons. I mean, Breaking Bad was actually like that. Was that way also. Like it, shows aren't handed to anybody. Or most of the time they're not. That's the exception, I think. So it's a lot of work to get people on board and keep them excited and kind of keep the market forces at bay. I think we're really lucky that our partners at AMC were the people they were, and that they were committed to quality storytelling. And it was disappointing when we were told they were going to end the show. It wasn't our decision. Ultimately, 4 seasons is great, and we're really proud of it. But the gift they gave us was giving us notice. So, we knew, with the exception of the strike that thank God didn't happen at that point in time, we knew when the show was going to end. So the Chris's and the writers could write towards that, and we could build towards it in a satisfying and meaningful way.
If we stay on the business side of this, which is obviously your wheelhouse, right? So budget's always a factor when you're making anything, especially when you're making 40 episodes of television. I understand there was a very specific creative vision for this show, sometimes down to even writing song titles into scripts. and I'm sure that was like that for many different aspects of this production. So at the same time, you know not everything's going to get across the line, and there's going to be compromises. So what for you sticks out as one or two of like the big wins that you had, where people really fought for something because you believed in it and you made it happen?
That's a good question. I mean, the budget was very lean, but the Chris's were like, you know, I think if you talk to them, you hear from them, they were so eager to make this work that like they have strong points of view, but they understood that money was a finite resource and that they weren't going to get everything they wanted out of that. I think we did our best to make the things that needed to feel big, you know, like a Comdex. I think we were able to put resources towards that over the course of the season and like stash money away here and there to make that feel big. Just from a location standpoint, from a background artist standpoint, from a, you know, the costume and set decoration standpoint. I think we pulled that off, which was great. The music, like you mentioned, like these guys have exquisite taste in music. Thomas Golevich, who's an incredible music supervisor who I've worked with on a number of shows, he's also and I shouldn't say it, it's not fair to him, but like he can make things work on, you know, a tiny little shoestring budget. So, you know, there would be songs that they wanted, and it could be like, well, it can't be this, but like we'd be working on it for months and months. Like, you know, Thomas would read the scripts, and then, you know, we'd be working on song ideas like for months and months to be able to land on the right one. And Jeff Freilich, our line producer, did a really good job of like, okay, we know we want to spend more money on music than we have, so like let's try to funnel away $10,000 here, $10,000 there, and accumulate like a real music licensing budget, because the budget we had was ridiculous. Like nobody could even afford, you know, any like a song on the budgets that we had. So it was very much a work in progress.
One of the hallmarks of this show, and I'm sure this is something that has come up before, is the way that it reinvents itself at least every season, if not even more frequently than that. And that can be moving to a new city, jumping forward in time. It can be a different tonal feel even to a season. What sort of advantages and disadvantages did that present from the production standpoint of just having a show that continued to reinvent itself?
Well, I think from a creative standpoint, it's wonderful. Like the show itself was about reinvention. It was about how we perceive ourselves and how deep can we dig into that well, and like who else is down there. And I think just thematically, it made a lot of sense to do that. And in terms of the industry that we were tracking, like it made a lot of sense to do that. From a production, just nuts and bolts standpoint, it's challenging because when you have a big set, like what you're supposed to do is spend a bunch of money up front, build a great set, and then use it episode after episode after episode after episode. And when you can't do that if you move cities, you can't do that if you burn a company down, you can't do that, you know, like Joe did literally burn things down. Like, I mean, this was a scorched earth kind of world where sometimes things were really, really dead, or character, you know, you have children who need to age up, like, you know, you can't go back. So that can be, it's expensive. Like you have to do something twice or 3 times or 4 times or however many times the story demands. But I think you always want to follow the creative there, and, you know, wherever these characters are going, support that, and, you know, and build the mechanisms around it.
Now that you've said burn it down, it raises a technical question in my brain. When you're looking at sort of like, I guess, safety protocols or any other sort of business concerns, and you've got episodes where like Joe burns a suit and a whole truck full of computers, you know, in season 1, it's like, what challenges does that present for you or for the team when you're looking at how to execute something like that?
Well, those sequences require a lot of time and thought and the right professionals at the helm, and just really thoughtful preparation. It's just all about, if you plan things and you plan for every contingency, and you have a fire truck standing by, and you have to think it through for like what's the worst thing that could happen, and how do we navigate around the negative outcomes, and support the like health and safety and communication on set. So I mean, it's what we do as professionals, so we do it again and again in different ways. And what's amazing is how many times you're like, oh, I've done this, but I haven't done it that way. What's great is that it never feels like old hat. It always feels like, oh, we're coming at this in some different, unique way, and then you have to prepare differently because of that. But hopefully you take your past experience and are able to say, oh, this thing actually went, we're dealt this surprise in this one way, and like let's make sure that isn't going to bone us in the end. Like, you just kind of keep accumulating knowledge and applying it, and hoping that the sequence and the process gets better and better.
One thing that has come up in so many of the interviews I've done, even just the fact that I'm getting as many interviews as I've gotten, really goes to show you what a positive atmosphere there was on set, that people want to talk about the show. And having just seen the panel here at the festival, there was such a feeling of warmth and positivity on the stage. And I will say your name is one of the most frequently dropped names on the interviews, of people really crediting you for the atmosphere and the vibe on set. So now that I'm getting a chance to actually talk with you about it, how did you see your role as a leader on this set?
Well, this was a show where the writer's room and post was in LA, and we were shooting in Atlanta. So, my role was to make sure that we were executing on the writer's vision in prep and on the set. We'd have our writers would come to sit on set, which is wonderful. But you have to, my job was really making sure nothing was sort of going down a road that the Chris's hadn't imagined, and that or hadn't been talked through and accepted and onboarded into their vision. So because you have directors on set that are and in prep that are, oh, I have this idea, and their idea might be here, and the Chris's idea is over here. So how do you get both sides on a path together to yield the result that's going to be the best thing for the show? So for me, it's really about communication, about rigor of let's keep referring back to the script and making sure we're honoring that, and then being flexible with what are the realities on the ground. Sometimes we can't find the kind of location that was scripted, so let's look at what we can find and rethink it, and make the flaw a feature.
Absolutely. Now that we've seen the full story play out, what are your favorite, let's say, what's your favorite season and why?
I mean, I love things about all of the seasons. I really do. Getting that cast, season one, having them together for the first time, and seeing the charges between the characters, whether that's Joe and Gordon, or whether that's Cameron and Joe, or Donna and Gordon. All of that was wonderful. Then seeing Carrie and Mackenzie's storylines being held in equal proportion with Lee and Scoots, that was wonderful for season 2. And I mean, as the show, I think it's just natural though, as the show goes on, the characters more, you love them more. So each episode feels like more of a gift, because you're just so excited to be in their lives, because it's a more sort of fulfilling experience, relationship experience. So I guess I would, the deeper you go, the better it is, because you know them and love them, and you're scared for them, and you're proud of them, or you're disappointed by them, but all of it is deeper and deeper, I think, as you get into the story. And I mean, Gordon's passing, such an emotional episode. I love that episode. And the finale of the show, I deeply love. As a working woman, I loved Donna's arc in that episode, and I loved how we ended it. I think it's just the idea that these two aren't like, they can't turn it off, and like that creativity, that like investment in each other, that investment in like what's next, and that optimism about the world, I thought was just like, I loved it, and I felt like it was really representative of the show.
Oh, beautifully said. Were there, on a, like, I guess, a smaller detail note, maybe, 80s and 90s, it's contemporary period piece, what were some of the things of that time that you wanted to see or were happy to see come to screen?
I mean, there's just like little, I think that I love working with the props department, like Jason, in our later seasons, just like Jason Davis, an incredible talent, and like, it's just so fun to do the deep dive. I mean, I loved doing the Cabbage Patch dolls, you know, the My Little Ponies, like, you know, the little girls, like their experience, like that was adjacent to my childhood. So like, you know, leaning into what my recollections were of that time and being able to make that, you know, concrete was like was really special and fun. And, you know, the fashion, the costumes, you know, are wonderful. Jennifer Bryan, you know, joined us for the end of the show. She's an amazing costume designer who, you know, I've worked with on Breaking Bad, on Better Call Saul. So it's just like, it's so much fun to, that those eras were just like, there's nostalgia to it, and sort of a like warmth, and it all felt so like so specific, and I kind of loved it all. But like I think the details of Joni's childhood like were, I thought, particularly fun.
Well, I have one last question, and you're starting to even answer it as you're talking, and it's like the most unfair question I could possibly ask you. But if we think about like unsung departments that you just wish, like, don't get credited enough when you do see people talk about this show, who do you want to make sure we're looking out for the type of work that they did?
It's an amazing question. I mean, there's so many. It's such an incredible team that, I mean, I do have a whole thing about music supervision, I will say, because they're so wildly underpaid. Like, they make, like, they have to make these crazy there's this whole business side to the job where they have to make deals and navigate a business where a lot of these musicians aren't making money in actual music, so they have to make money through this music licensing. So then you're like actually just trying to sort of barter and navigate the business of it is very complicated between labels and musicians themselves and representatives. It's just Byzantine. And then like on top of it, like they, you know, music supervisors usually start when you get the scripts and they end when you do the mix. Like, it's a extremely long run. And again, if you divided the money up, like based on like the number of hours they put in, it would be atrocious and embarrassing. And I can't believe. And it's something I will say, like, it's not like people notice the music and are like, it's incredible. So I do think they get some credit, but the financial end of it to me is like kind of one of the things that breaks my heart. But all the props I said, I that was an incredible team. The our last production designer, Ola Masek, was so fabulous, and Chris Brown, who started us off, like an incredible talent. Like, and it was actually, and we had 3 production designers over the course of the show who were all great, and it was actually awesome to bring different people on as sort of we jumped through different eras. So it felt incredibly distinct, you know, because they were seeing the art aspect of the show through different eyes. The cars on the show, like, that was really complicated because we were trying to get period cars, but like a lot of shitty period cars. So like those are, because they're not running anymore, you know, like they're like, I had never even heard of an AMC as a car. I, of course, our beloved network, but not a car. And I think we had a couple of them on our show, and I was like, oh, and I thought I knew things about cars. And occasionally, like, they would like catch on fire because they're so literally catch on fire because they're old and not well maintained because they're in terrible condition and exactly how we need them. So that was hard too.
Oh my goodness, that's such a blessing for people to be able to hear about some of these departments. And the cars are something I don't know a lot about, so I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that is part of the deep dive that is sorely lacking. So thank you so much for taking time to talk with me and for being here at this festival.
My pleasure, Melissa. Thank you very much.